Welcome guys, my name is Pranshi Verma. In today's session, we will discuss ISC Square CCSP Certified Cloud Security Professional Examination Practice Set Question and Answer, and this is part 1. And in today's session, we will focus on cloud concepts, architecture and design. Okay, now let's begin the session. First question is, Alice is the CEO for a software company. She is considering migrate the operation from the current traditional on-premises environment into the cloud. Which cloud service model should she likely consider for her company's purpose? Okay, so according to this question, option A is platform as a service, option B software as a service, option C backup as a service, and option D infrastructure as a service. Okay, so according to the question, Alice is the CEO for a software company. Okay, and she is considering migrate the operation from the current traditional on-premises environment into the cloud. Okay, and in this case, best cloud services platform as a service. Option A, because platform as a service will allow her developers to create and design their software on a variety of operating systems, increasing the breadth of the market she can sell to. Also, she can use geographically dispersed programs to work on projects concurrently, and the provider will be responsible for maintaining and updating the operating systems as necessary. Okay, if we are talking about option D, infrastructure as a service, so infrastructure as a service is a less attractive in this case because option D, infrastructure as a service, so infrastructure as a service is a less attractive in this case because it would retain the need for Alice's company to administer the operating systems in addition to building their software. It might be less expensive in terms of paying the cloud provider, but the time and effort are personal necessary to maintain the operating systems would offset the cost, probably in a net negative way. Okay, if we're talking about option B, software as a service, so software as a service is not an option in this case because Alice wants her company to build software, not rent it or buy it. Okay, and at last, if we are talking about option C, backup as a service, it's not suitable in this case because backup as a service would not be useful for creating, designing, or deploying a licensed company's software. Okay, guys, so here correct answer is option A, platform as a service. Now, next question. Alice is the CEO for a software company. She is considering migrate the operation from the current traditional on-premises environment into the cloud. Which aspect of cloud computing should she be most concerned about in terms of security issues? Option A, multi-tenancy. Option B, metered service. Option C, service level agreement SLA. And option D, remote access. Okay. So according to this question, option A is multi-tenancy is correct because of these four options, multi-tenancy poses the greatest risk of software developers in the cloud. As well as developers need to be concerned with two things. First one, protecting their intellectual property, means the software they were making, and protecting resources calls their software makes to the underlying infrastructure, which, if detectable by other cloud customers, could provide information that constitute a side channel attack. Okay, if we're talking about metered service, so metered service doesn't pose much of a security risk. Okay, if we are talking about option C, service level agreement, so service level agreement might include some security aspects such as response time, but it's usually more of performance ensuring tool. Okay, and this choice is not as good as option A, multi-tenancy. Okay, if we are talking about option D, remote access, so remote access in this particular case provides more benefits than risk. Allies can utilize work from developers located across the country or across the planet. While she does have to consider the risk inherent in all remote access, those risks are not as significant as the risk due to multi-tenancy. Okay, so here option A is perfect one. So guys, in this question, option A is perfect one. Okay, next question. Alice is the CEO for a software company. She is considered migrating the operation from the current traditional on-premises environment into the cloud. In order to protect her company's intellectual property, Alice might want to consider implementing all these technique solutions except option A, egress monitoring, option B, encryption, option C, turnstiles, option D, digital watermarking. Okay, so according to this question, option C, turnstiles is correct because turnstiles are a physical security barrier to prevent piggybacking, means tailgating, an unauthorized person coming through an entrance behind someone who is authorized. Okay, but they don't really present much protection for intellectual property in this case. If we are talking about option A, egress monitoring, so egress monitoring, often referred to as DLP solution, is a great way to reduce the likelihood of intellectual property leaving the owner's control in an unexpected, unapproved manner. Okay. Likewise, a strong encryption is useful in the cloud to reduce the impact of their either from leakage to other cloud tenants or from insiders threats such as malicious admins in the employ of the cloud provider. Okay, but if we're talking about option D, this is digital watermarking. So digital watermarks add protection of intellectual property by proving original ownership, which is essential for enforcing intellectual property rights. Okay, but in this case of software design, mainly copyright protections. Okay, correct answer is option C, turnstiles. Okay, now next question. Alice is the CEO for a software company. She is considered migrating the operation from the current traditional on-premises environment into the cloud. What is probably the biggest factor in her decision? Option A, network scalability. Option B, offsite backup capability. Option C, global accessibility. And option D, reduce overall cost due to outsourcing administration. Okay, so according to this question, option D is correct one. This is reduced overall cost due to outsourcing administration. Because while all of these are traits of cloud computing and will likely benefit Elias's company from her position as senior manager of the organization, she is likely to consider financial benefits first and foremost. Okay, that's why option D is reduced overall cost due to outsourcing administration is perfect one. Okay, next question. In which the following situation does the data owner have to administer the operating system? Option A, infrastructure as a service. Option B, platform as a service. Option C, offsite archive. Option D, software as a service. Here, correct answer is option A, infrastructure as a service. Because with infrastructure as a service, the customer means data owner. The customer data owner will administer the operating system and application. Okay, and if we are talking about platform as a service, in platform as a service, the provider will manage the underlying hardware and the operating system. Okay, in an on-premises enterprise, the data owner is also the system owner and will be responsible for everything. Okay, if we are talking about option D, software as a service, so in a software as a service environment, the cloud provider will handle all aspects of processing except for adding and manipulating the production data. Okay, so option A, infrastructure as a service is perfect one. Okay, next question. You are setting up a cloud implementation for an online retailer who will accept credit card payments according to the Payments Card Industry Data Security Standards PCI DSS. What can you never store for any length of time? Option A, personal data of consumers. Option B, the credit card verification number, CCV number. Option C, the credit card number. Option D, home address of the customer. Okay, in this case, correct answer is option B. This is credit card verification CCV number because PCI DSS requires that the CCV, okay, or sometimes CBB for card verification value, okay, only be used in the transaction, not stored. The data described in all the other options may be stored after the transaction is complete, okay. So here correct answer is option B, CCV number. Next question. The Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards PCI DSS distinguishes merchants by different tiers based on option A, number of transactions per year, option B, dollar value of transactions per year, option C, geographic location, and option D, jurisdiction. Okay, so according to this question, correct answer is option A, number of transactions per year. Okay, because the four merchants label in PCI are distinguished by the numbers of transactions that merchant conducts in a year. Okay, the dollar value of transactions per year, geographic location, and jurisdiction are not attributes that are evaluated for PCI DSS style labels. Okay, so option A is number of transactions per year is correct here. Next question. What is usually considered the difference between business continuity BC efforts and disaster recovery DR efforts? Option A, B, C, D are given here. If we are talking about option A, this is BC involves a recovery time objective RTO and DR involves a recovery point objective RPO. This is technically incorrect because both BC and DR use the RTO and RPO as metrics to determine success. Okay, so option B is incorrect. Now option B. BC is for events caused by humans like arson or theft, whereas DR is for natural disaster. This is technically incorrect because BC and DR efforts are not specific to the cause of a disruptive event. Okay, so this is incorrect. Now option C. BC is about maintaining critical functions during a disruption of normal operations and DR is about recovering to normal operations after a disruption. Okay, so option C is technically correct because BC efforts are meant to ensure that critical business functions can continue during a disruptive event and DR efforts are supposed to support the return to normal operations. However, in practice, the efforts often coincide, use the same plans, personnel, and have many of the same procedures. Okay, so option C is correct here. If we are talking about option C, BC involves protecting humans' assets, means personal, staff, users, whereas DR is about protecting property, means assets, data. Okay, so this is technically incorrect because health and human safety should be paramount in all security efforts with very few expectations. Okay, so in this question, correct answer is option C. Next question. For business continuity and disaster recovery purposes, the contract between the primary cloud provider and customer should include all the following except here. Correct answer is option D. This is how much a new cloud provider will charge the customer if data has to be ported from the current cloud provider because of a disruptive event. Okay. Why option D is correct? Because the contract between the cloud customer and current cloud provider has no bearing on what the customer will have to pay to a new provider. That will be governed by the contract between the customer and the new provider. Okay, and all the other options are topics that should be addressed in the contract between the current cloud provider and the cloud customer in order to properly address BCDR needs. Okay, that's why here correct answer is option D. Okay, next question. When the cloud customer requests modifications to the current contract or service level agreement for business continuity, disaster recovery, VDDR purposes, who should absorb the cost of modification? Here, option A is correct. The customer absorbs the cost because the customer will have to pay for the costs of modification requested by the customer regardless of purpose. Okay, and all the other options, the provider absorbs the cost and the cost should be split equally, they are simply incorrect. But if we are talking about option D, modification doesn't cost anything, this is completely incorrect, false statement. Okay, this is never true in any case. Okay, so guys, here correct answer is option A, the customer absorbs the cost. Okay, next question. Which of the following is not a factor an organization might use in the cost benefit analysis when deciding whether to migrate to a cloud environment? Here, correct answer is option D. This is branding associated with which cloud provider might be selected. Because the brand associated with the cloud provider should not influence the cost benefit analysis, and the cloud provider's brand means and even which cloud provider an organization uses will most likely not even be known to the consumers who have a business relationship with the organization. Okay, the provider doesn't absorb the cost when the customer requests a modification of the SLA. Though an even split of the cost between customer and providers may seem fair, the customer pays the all cost associated with modification to the SLA by the customer. Finally, customer modifications to their SLA are chargeable expenses that will almost certainly be paid for by the customer. Okay. So in this question, is not a factor an organization might use in the cost benefit analysis is option D, branding associated with which cloud provider might be selected. Okay. Next question. Which of the following is the least important factor an organization might use in the cost benefit analysis when deciding whether to migrate to a cloud environment? Here, option A, B, C, D are given. Correct answer is option C, whether the provider bills on a monthly or weekly basis. Okay. The timing of recurring payments to the provider will probably not be a significant factor in the cost benefit analysis. Okay. All the other options are topics that are more important to review when an organization is considering cloud migration, because option A is depreciation of IT assets is related to which of the following is the least important factor an organization might use in the cost benefit analysis when deciding whether to migrate to a cloud environment. Here, option A, B, C, D are given. Correct answer is option C, whether the provider bills on a monthly or weekly basis. Okay, the timing of recurring payments to the provider will probably not be a significant factor in the cost benefit analysis. Okay, all the other options are topics that are more important to review when an organization is considering cloud migration, because option A is depreciation of IT assets is related to review. Okay, and if we are talking about option B, shift in focus from IT dependencies to business process opportunities, it's also related to review part. And option D is cost associated with utility consumptions, it's also related to review part. Okay, it's important in review of a cloud environment. So here correct answer is option C, whether the provider bills on a monthly or weekly basis. Okay, next question. Which of the following is an aspect of IT cost that will likely to be reduced by moving from a traditional on-premises IT environment into the cloud? Here, option A, number of users, option B, cost of software licensing, option C, number of applications, and option D, number of clientele. Here, correct answer is option B, cost of software licensing. Because in a traditional environment, enterprise software cost can be exorbitant and the price of licensing doesn't even reflect the hidden cost associated with licensing, such as managing the licensing library. In a cloud agreement, especially software as a service, the customer pays only the contract fee to the cloud provider, and it's the provider's responsibility to arrange for software licensing and to manage those licenses. Okay. Option A's number of users is incorrect because the number of users should not be affected whether the organization is operating in the cloud or a legacy environment. Okay. The exception would be the reduced number of privileged users because the cloud provider will be handling more administrative tasks in the environment. However, because privileged was not specified, option B is still a better answer. Okay, cost of software licensing. Okay, if we are talking about option C, number of application is incorrect because that may or may not be true for organizations migration to the cloud. Okay, option D is number of clientele is incorrect because the organization certainly hopes it's not going to lose clientele by moving to the cloud. Okay, so here correct answer is option B, cost of software licensing. Okay, next question. Which of the following is an aspect of IT cost that will likely be reduced by moving from a traditional on-premises IT environment to the cloud? Here correct answer is option A, this is utilized cost, because cloud providers are purchasing utilities, power, water, internet connectivity at such a massive rate that they can realize per unit cost savings that would far exceed any smaller organization's pricing for individual data centers. Okay, in this case, economics of scale are very much in favor of the larger entity. Okay, option B, security cost, is may be true, may not be true, because it's depending on the degree of sensitivity and value of the organization's data and what controls the organization will request contract for in the cloud. Okay, if we are talking about option C, landscaping cost, and option D, travel cost, are not influenced by cloud migration in any way and are wholly dependent on other factors within the organization. That's why option C and option D are incorrect. And here, best answer is option A, utilities cost. Okay. Next question. Which of the following is an aspect of IT cost that will likely be reduced by moving from a traditional on-premises IT environment to the cloud? Here, correct answer is option C, capital expenses for IT assets. Okay. Why option C is correct? Because constant reinvestment in IT assets, which are almost always obsolete by the time they are marketed, much less by the time they are deployed in operational environments. Okay, is plugged with sunk costs. Money spent on hardware devices or software licenses is unlikely to be recovered. Avoiding expenditures for IT systems by moving to the cloud means reducing these costs considerably. Okay. Option A is personal training is incorrect in this case because cloud migration should not affect the need for personal training. Employees will just need to be trained in a different manner. Okay. Option B is personal turnover, and option D, loss due to an internal data breach, is incorrect because they should not be affected by cloud migration in any way. Whether your organization has a high personal turnover rate or risk from internal threat is not based on whether the IT environment is owned or leased. Okay. Okay guys, now let's wind up the session. See you in the next session. If you like the video, please hit the like button and make sure to subscribe to my channel for more updates. Please share this video with your friends. Bye bye. Take care.